Men, it is chest day, our favorite day of the week. Unless you happen to be my friend that works out with me and his favorite day is leg day. That's all the evidence that I need that he's actually a female, but I have been considering pantsing him next time I see him just to verify that. This is the start of week 3 of Greg Nuckols' free training program. It will be in the description below. I am doing bench today, as previously mentioned. We're moving up in the weight. Next week is supposed to be the 1 rep max, the new 1 rep max. So hopefully I get there. But I will be starting off with 3 sets of 3 of 85% of my 1 rep max. I will also be sharing with you what I have personally learned about sleep over the last 5 years or so. The past 2 years specifically, I have been determined to figure out how to get away with 6 hours of sleep. And spoiler alert, I don't. So stick around for that. So up until pretty recently, I haven't cared much for sleep. I always tried to avoid it. I was the kind of guy in my late teens and 20s, early 20s, where I would stay up till 4 a.m., go to work at 8, come back from work, take a 4-hour nap, and then do it all over again. I was a night owl. I still am a little bit of a night owl, but nowhere near like I used to be. But I just wanted to sleep as little as possible because there's other things that I wanted to do. What is the stat? We spend a third or something of our lives sleeping. That's a lot of time. Our lives are short enough as it is. I didn't want to waste it sleeping. So I was pretty determined to figure out how to sleep as little as possible while using as little amount of drugs as possible. And like most people, I have relied on caffeine and still do rely on caffeine a little bit. I like my pre-workout, so what? I enjoy it. Makes me feel good. But full transparency here, I have also used something called Clomid. What that is, if you're not aware, is a natural testosterone booster. So it's not a testosterone replacement like TRT is. It's just something that's supposed to help boost your natural production of testosterone. I'm only 34. I don't want to go replacing testosterone at this young of an age. I don't need it. But the reason I did that was because I got blood work done and my testosterone was pretty low for someone my age. But guess what a side effect of not enough sleep is? Low testosterone. Who would have thought? Now, a big part of what sparked this belief in me that I can get less than 8 hours of sleep, like everyone will tell you you need, was comparison. Shocker. Hearing so many people talk about how, oh man, I can only need 4 hours of sleep and then I can go work 14 hours and do a 2-hour workout and I'm good to go. Yeah, I've just come to the conclusion in my own mind that those guys are just on copious amounts of drugs. They're doing a ton of drugs. And if that's what they want to do, I really don't care. That's fine with me. I just don't want to do drugs. They scare me. I want to live as long as possible, not get as jacked as possible. The big irony in all of this for me personally is that I found out that not only do I need more than 6 or 7 hours of sleep, I actually need more than 8 hours of sleep, which is something that kind of irked me to begin with. I probably need 9 hours of sleep to feel really, really good every day. So I slid backwards from the original goal. I needed more sleep than I actually was getting and didn't even realize it. So part of what I wanted to talk about this are key things to look out for in your own life that could be really strong indicators that you just need to get more sleep and you shouldn't be looking at other alternatives to feel better, to eat better, and those sorts of things. That felt weird. To be completely honest here, I'm not feeling very good about hitting a new PR next week. I am hoping that for whatever reason, in about a week and a half, I just feel much stronger than I do right now. So some of these things I'm going to talk about in regards to sleep are going to sound very stupid, and that's just because I am stupid. So bear with me here because it took a stupid guy like me a long time to figure out things that hopefully were obvious for you. And if you haven't figured these things out, you're not stupid. It's just me. Just I'm the stupid one. The first one here is going to be super obvious to look out for. If you're tired, just get some sleep. People think, oh, I worked hard yesterday. Oh, I worked out hard today. Oh, I haven't eaten enough today. Oh, maybe I'm dehydrated. These are all traps that I've fallen for. And, those do play a factor in energy and how you're feeling, but nowhere near the amount that sleep plays into the equation. I kind of view it like supplements and fitness. Supplements are going to help, but just eating healthy and working out and getting in shape is going to do 90% of the work. And supplements are just going to help take that extra 10% further for you if that's something that you're interested in doing. So sleep is the natural, obvious, healthy thing that you should be doing more of if you are tired all the time. It's weird and sucks how hard that is, because if you're in a place in your life where you're not real happy with how things are going, then it can be really, really hard to go to work for 9 hours and then make sure that you're falling asleep by 9, 10 o'clock. Because then, if you have to go home and do some chores or you have to cook dinner and stuff, it really feels like you're only getting 1 or 2 hours a day where you are getting to do things that you actually want to do. Quick side note, you are actually always doing the things that you want to do. It just might not feel like it at the time, but that's probably something for another video. So maybe a better way to put it is doing the things that you really enjoy doing in the moment. But something that's been a big turnaround for me is just wanting to feel better. Like, yeah, maybe I'm not getting quite as much time to do the things that I find more enjoyable, but I am spending my days feeling significantly better. And that's definitely worth the trade-off, because I would spend a lot of time, if I'm tired throughout the whole day, it means I'm crankier, it means that I want to eat things that aren't good for me, and it means that I'm shorter with myself and the people that I care about. So sacrificing an hour of time to just be a happier person is an easy trade-off for me, and it translates to other things. I'm doing fitness here, it translates to feeling better in the gym and less injuries and more energy. Shocker. Okay, moving on to 3 sets of 1 rep of 90% of 1 rep max here. I don't actually have the right plates to get exactly 90% of my 1 rep max, so I'm going a little heavier because we all want to lift heavier. We're ego lifters here. All of us want to get bigger and stronger, so, just stroke the ego. I'm going to go heavier, and hopefully it doesn't hurt my long-term results. I say all that, but I'm only going like 5 pounds heavier, so it's not going to make any difference. So moving on to less obvious signs here of indicators that you should be getting more sleep. One of them that I've kind of figured out is food. A lot of eating that we do in modern society is not because we're hungry, it's because we're having cravings or because we're addicted to things. Specifically sugar is highly addictive, try not to eat it. But if you know that you've gotten full 2 times in a day, then you've eaten what you need to eat for that day. You just have. And I guess maybe you might have some medical issue or something going on out there, but I do think a lot of people use that as excuse to overeat. And if you have an excessive amount of weight, then you probably don't even need to get full twice in a day, because fat is just stored food. But personally, I like to intermittent fast a lot. I'll have a protein bar probably about 12 hours in, so I'm not technically intermittent fasting, despite the fact that there is research out there showing or suggesting that you can still have some calories during an intermittent fast and it doesn't break the benefits of that. I usually try to eat 1 or 2 meals a day. It's almost always 2 meals, unless I'm really, really trying to cut some fat, then it's probably going to be 1 big meal and some snacking. But again, let's say you've gotten full and satisfied 2 times in a day, then you've eaten enough, and if you are getting tired, it's getting late, and you find yourself heading to the kitchen or the pantry, you don't need more food, you just need sleep. Food is a good way to get some dopamine rush, and especially if you're consuming sugar, that's going to give you a little bit of a rush as well, and it's going to help give you energy to stay up a little bit later and watch more Netflix or play more video games, whatever it is that you want to do. So, listen to your body. That's something that I'm going to say a lot throughout this. If you're tired and you feel like you can go to sleep, then there's a strong chance that you just need to go to sleep. And what I'm saying is obvious, but it's not obvious to someone like me for most of my life. I just wanted to, get the fix, get the dopamine rush to stay up an extra hour or 2 so that I didn't have to go to sleep. But it's just not good for you. Now, something related to this is if you're like me and you actually sometimes have a hard time sleeping on an empty stomach, I actually get what's called restless leg syndrome, or restless limb syndrome is what I like to call it, because If you've ever experienced that before, you're lying in bed and it just feels like your limbs got to move. It's almost like you feel like you have ants crawling under your skin, and you get super jittery, and the more you ignore it, the worse that it gets. So sometimes when I'm on an empty stomach, I'll get that. So again, that's one reason why I like intermittent fasting, because I can push all my eating closer to bedtime, so that way I can go to bed on a fuller stomach, and it just makes me feel better. It makes me sleep better. There's some people that sleep better on an empty stomach. I have a buddy that does intermittent fasting, and he's done eating by like 3 in the afternoon, and I have no idea how he does that. But it works for him. Now, another not so obvious sign that you might need more sleep is the way that you're interacting with people. So this is a mindset-oriented channel. I like discussing mind and the possibilities of it and the way people think. I've always just kind of tended to be like that, and part of that way of thinking has led me to believe that, you know, if I just set my mind to it, I can feel that way or think a certain way, and the amount of times that has just come back to bite me in the butt has not worked out very well for me. And the amount of times that I've been in a bad mood and just be like, okay, just decide to turn it around, and I didn't, it's just weird. In some ways it doesn't make any sense, because you feel like you should have that kind of control. But if you feel like you're getting short with people that you normally don't get short with, or you're getting a little snappy at your loved ones, then there's a chance that you just need to get more sleep. The difference that it's made for me in being a cranky person as opposed to being a fun and happy person has been massive in just getting an extra hour or 2 of sleep at night. Moving on to tricep extensions of your choice. This is 3 sets of 6 reps. Another indicator that ties into the previous one is pay attention to the way that you're treating yourself. I know that if I'm tired, I tend to be a lot harder on myself. I tend to be a lot less forgiving. Again, prone to anger and frustration much more quickly. So there could be other factors that are causing you to feel that way. Maybe you're financially stressed, or you're in a tough relationship. But it could just be that you need to get more sleep. When I don't get enough sleep, it puts me into zombie mode. That's what my wife and I call it. But I'm like in a fog, and I just have this cloud over my mind. And you know, I'm dumb enough as it is. I don't need any extra mental load. You know, I just have a hard time even coming up with something to describe my brain. That's how dumb I can be. So why would I need to add sleep on top of that? Or a lack of sleep on top of that. I am not going to get 6 reps here, I can already tell you that, but that's okay. I am working off my 6 rep max here, and I probably should just take a little bit more rest time, but it's getting close to dinner, so I'm just ready to knock it out. Hopefully I can get 5. These are ugly. Only 4. Something else to pay attention to is how you're recovering from workouts, or if you are frequently getting injured in workouts because maybe you aren't taking the time to rest and sleep and recover the way that you need to. A lot of the recovery that we do is done during sleep, so it's important to get that. We live in an era where there's some new toy or method coming out that makes it feel like that's going to be the fix to a problem that we're currently having. But it's amazing how often you can just kind of go back to basics, and in this regard, enough sleep, proper nutrition, and working out. That can fix so many aspects of people's lives that they don't realize. There's things that you hear about all the time where people are struggling with joint pain or gout or those kind of things that can just be kind of fixed if you lose a bunch of weight. And all those things I mentioned help achieve that. Now, with that being said, GLP-1, which is Ozempic, and the fat loss miracle drug is really pretty incredible. I do know people personally in my life that have benefited greatly from that, but it is essentially just a hunger suppressant, so it is something that you can do without the drug. There's lots of people out there that were convinced they couldn't lose weight. I don't know how many times I've heard people say that they have a thyroid problem. Well, no, you just can't control what you eat. And that's okay. If you recognize that, then you can fix it. Oh, 3. 4. Okay. That's all I got of that one. All right, I'm about to move on to DB press here. Now, I do not have enough weight in my dumbbells to go to the weight that I need. So what I'm gonna do is just more time under tension. So we're gonna count the reps. We're gonna go slower. We're gonna go 1, 2, 3 down, 1, 2, 3 up. So that way it's just a little bit harder. If you can't afford heavier weight and you do have some dumbbells lying around, that is an easy way to just make it harder on yourself. You know, if you can do 20 reps with the weight that you have, then just turn it into 10, but count to 5 on the way up and down. You know, you're still gonna get a good burn and good workout from that. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Oh, that was perfect. I could not have done one more of those. So that's really all the thoughts that I had to share on sleep for me personally. Those have been the biggest hard lessons that I've had to learn over the last 5-6 years. There are other things to take into account, how you're performing at work, if you're in school, how you're performing on tests. So just kind of that mental awareness or alertness aspect of it as well. But I wanted to touch on the food and the emotional awareness side of things a little bit more, just because those have been the biggest obstacles for me to overcome. And I don't hear people talk about that very often. You know, in food, they don't really say you might be eating more just because you're tired. I have heard people talk about that, just to be fair. But I can't really think of people talking too much about, you know, you might be lashing out at your loved one just because you're tired and you just need an extra hour of sleep at night. Now, like all things in life, there are a bunch of other factors that could be contributing to why you're feeling the way that you are and why you're acting the way that you are. But definitely take a look at sleep, because that is something that you will die if you don't have enough of. So that's one end of the extreme. Try and go on the other side of that. Try and get enough to where you'll live forever. How about that? Be the first one to do that. But in actuality, I have a saying that I've been telling myself a lot over the last few months, which is, it's very easy to get behind on sleep, but nearly impossible to get ahead of sleep. You might be able to buy yourself a day or two, but you know, after that, you're gonna come down hard. So just don't get behind, and if you do, catch back up. Take a nap if you need to. So I do not think that I will be able to get another 6 reps with that 3 count pace. So what I'm gonna do on this one is I'm gonna do as many reps as I can at that 3 count pace, and then I'll just do as many normal reps as I can after that, which will probably only be 1, maybe 2. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 4. 1 more. So I do suspect a big reason why I have plateaued on the barbell bench is because I do have some form issues that I'm still trying to iron out. The reason I suspect that is, first off, the plateau. Secondly, because I do feel it in different places on my upper body when I'm doing reps on that. Sometimes I'll do a rep and I kind of feel it a little bit more in my shoulders as opposed to in my chest, and the next one I'll correct that properly and feel it a little bit more in my chest. I like the dumbbell press a lot because it's so easy to keep those in a more comfortable position for me. You know, you can kind of come down and stretch it out a little bit more at the bottom, and then you can come up and bring your hands a little bit closer like this. And it just feels more comfortable to me than having it, you know, locked in on a barbell. People do say that dumbbell pressing is safer, and I'm sure there's a lot of data to back that up, but personally for me, the times that I have gotten hurt doing a press is from the dumbbell press, so I do have to be a little bit careful with that. I did have to go to rehab because I just had this chest injury here going up into my shoulder that lasted for like 4 or 5 months that I just couldn't get past on my own. Turns out I was doing all the right things to get past it, just probably didn't take enough time out of the gym and didn't give myself enough time to recover. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. One more. Last exercise here is 3 sets of 8 of your choice. You can pick a curl of your choice, or a pull down, or a pull up. So what I will be doing here is a chin up, because it's a pull down and pull up at the same time. Think about that. 5, 6, 7, 8. If you want to work out more at home, like yours truly, but you don't have the money to get a setup yet, man, the amount of things that you can do with a place to do push-ups, a weighted vest, and a pull-up bar, all things that you can get for relatively cheap, man, you can make a lot of gains with just that equipment there. I have a ton of respect for you calisthenic guys out there. Man, I don't have the patience to do what you do. First off, it requires a lot of shoulder strength to do a lot of calisthenic stuff, and that just happens to be one of my weakest, well, no, it's definitely my weakest muscle. But man, calisthenic stuff seems like it requires a lot of reps, and man, it gets boring sitting there doing 20, 30, 50 plus reps of one thing over and over again. I'll probably do it someday just because it is a nice thing to change up, and the ego in me would be interested in doing some of those calisthenic things, but who knows? The weights is where it's at for me. 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, I'm pretty sure the camera died on me on my last set, but if it did, you know what I was doing. You get the gist of it. But I'm done. Thanks for getting stronger with me. And if you're still watching, I really appreciate that, sincerely. And I guess if you want to see more of my videos, you're supposed to do something on YouTube, but I can't remember what it is. Either way, see ya!